This is the first lunch with the Supe this year. It's been a very interesting year because of the flooding, and so we've just pushed things back a little bit. But I'm visiting with the community who comes today and just sort of give a state of the state of the EBR system. We have made a real effort at increasing our academic rigor, for one thing. We do academic audits in all the schools. It's proven to be very successful because this year we have increased in every academic area. So I'm very satisfied with that and very happy for our kids in our schools. We had many schools that grew over 10 points, so we're happy with that as well. But at the same time, we want to build character in our students. We want to allow them opportunities to give back, to serve others. So the score you see that comes from the state only takes into consideration academics, and I think there's a lot more to a letter grade than that. You've got the arts, the athletics, the character piece, the service. All of this is a part of what makes a young man or young woman ready for citizenship. This is the first lunch with the Supe this year. So being the first one, there is a lot that has happened since we last met last year. So this is a snapshot of what our schools look like. You know, 41,000 students, 84 sites, 9% with disabilities. I'm not going to read it all to you, but you can sort of see what our school system looks like. Strong public schools, and Jeff just mentioned that, build strong communities. And we really do have a huge role to play in the future of Baton Rouge, no doubt about it. And we're investing in creating the next generation of leaders for Baton Rouge. And leadership is very important to me, and you're going to hear more about that in a few minutes. Leadership is the key to doing better each and every day. And sometimes leadership is innate, sometimes it's learned, sometimes you work hard and get better at it. But make no mistake about it, leadership is the key to our school system getting better. And what I mean by that is we have Dr. Cheryl Gilbert in the audience. Raise your hand, Dr. Gilbert, who's the principal of one of our schools, who has turned a school around this year, done a phenomenal job. And I'm so proud of him and what he's done and the service he gives to our kids. That's leadership. So I just want to let everybody know that leadership is the key. Now, you look at the board and you're going to see community response. What is that about? You all know we had a very difficult summer in Baton Rouge. You may not remember, but at Brookstown Middle, we had an incident there that was a significant incident where one of our assistant principals was killed, and that made the news for a long time. And then you had the Alton Sterling situation, and then you had the flood. I mean, how much more can people take? How much more can people take? It's been difficult. And so this community response is, what are we doing to help our students move forward from these events? Let me tell you, when I visit schools, when Dr. Clayton and Adonica and I visit schools, and Adam Smith, the associate superintendent, when we visit schools that have been put together, and you see, for example, let me give you an example. Capitol Middle School has about 400 or 500 students. Park Forest Middle School has about 800 and something students. They are in the same building now. You put about that many students in one building, it's a challenge. It is an absolute challenge, and we met with those teachers from Park Forest Middle School. We need to get them back as soon as possible. And I'll talk a little later about this, but we're going to help get that 6th grade back even quicker than we thought we were, because we need some relief there. So if you just look at what is our plan for the community? Well, we're engaging partners, law enforcement agencies. I talk to all of the law enforcement agencies on a regular basis. We have some consultants from LSU and Southern, and we have to give our students opportunities to talk. I don't know if y'all know Neil Weiner, but he was the football coach at Zachary High, and his dad's the football coach at Catholic High, and he texted me over the weekend with a story about law enforcement agencies in Arlington, Texas. And he said, I thought you'd be interested in this. And I hadn't talked to Neil in months and months. But I texted him back and I said, thank you so much. And I looked at it. And it's about these law enforcement officers going into these schools not as a person who's there to stop any problem, but to embed themselves within the athletic program and the other extracurricular programs and be a part of that organization. And it's changed that system, Arlington. And so those are the kind of things that we're doing. And we're also working with local and state leaders on the response to the federal investigation, which I assume will come out soon. And so we need to be ready for all of that. So let's talk about the flood a minute. I don't know if people realize just how dramatic this flood really was. Because soon after that, they had an incident in South Carolina, so the news went away. But I will tell you, we have about over 500 administrators and teachers who've been displaced. That means their homes were flooded. They're out of their homes, and more than likely, they're still out of their homes. More than 332 bus drivers and support staff. You're talking about almost 1,000 employees. We have about 5,500 employees. We have over 5,000 students who are displaced, who are living somewhere else right now or going to a different school. That's pretty incredible when you think about that. And they're not back. So let's take a look. These are administrative sites. I'm not going to read them all, but you can see the administrative site on the left and then the relocation site on the right. All of these buildings were flooded. You know, we talk about schools. We don't talk about administrative sites. Gary Reese is Chief of Student Support Services. He's over transportation. Well, transportation had to move to the Instructional Resource Center, and that's where they've been. And the good news is they moved back this week to their original site. So we're back with transportation. But take a look where these other ones are. All the other ones are still displaced. Take a look at the schools. These are schools on the left that flooded or have been displaced. A few of them didn't flood, but we had to move them in order to make room for a large school. You take a look at Brookstown Middle there at Scotlandville Middle. I mentioned Park Forest Middle. I want to talk briefly, though, about Glen Oaks High School. Northdale Academy is a building that we were using as an alternative site, 60 or 70 students there. We needed a site that would hold 700 plus students. We knew that it would with some TLC. So we moved the alternative students. We went in and fixed this school up, now Glen Oaks High School, and I really want to commend the administration of Glen Oaks High School in particular, and Glen Oaks Park Elementary in particular, for the positive attitude. This is not easy. You know it's not easy. And there are some people in this room I know personally who've flooded out who are still not back in their homes. So it affects so many people in different ways. All of these schools have been displaced. I will say this, Twin Oaks Elementary was displaced and we got them back October 10th. And so the reason why we really went to work on Twin Oaks is because they were in 3 different schools. And that's just unacceptable, 3 different schools. And they are back in their school now. So that's the good news. We had 109 buses that were flooded beyond repair out of 550. 109 flooded beyond repair. We had another 60 to 80 that were flooded that we were able to repair. But the 109 had to be declared surplus, gone. That's hard to believe. So to be able to get back in the schools within 16 days, we had to order 83 buses. We got those buses in. We outfitted them for Louisiana, which means you have to have an arm in the front and an arm on the side, I think is the regulation. And we were back on the road in 16 days in East Baton Rouge Parish. So I think that's a tribute to the staff that we have working and to everyone involved. Because if you think about it, when you go back and think about those schools that have been displaced, every one of those students have to be rerouted. Somebody's got to sit there and put the name in, reroute them. Even the walking students. You may have students who've never ridden a bus who walk to school, but the school is not open anymore. They have to be routed on a bus. So it's a larger issue than you might think when you think about it. Now, here's the FEMA. We are on FEMA time now, right? And I'm glad we're on FEMA time. That means we're going to get back, hopefully, Senator, 90% of what's reimbursable. Okay? We had $10 million in flood insurance. We've already received that. We don't know what the final total will be. We're estimating around $50 million. We've already paid out $26 to $30 million. The build back is in process right now. And it's slow because of the FEMA reimbursement. Steve Bryce has been hired as our grants manager. That's the person who helps us maximize our amount of money coming back to the system. He lives in Florida. He worked in Florida. He also worked in New Orleans in Katrina, so he's very well aware of how FEMA works, and he's a wonderful person and doing a super good job. So that is moving along, but it's moving along slowly because it's called reimbursable. Let me give you an idea of what I mean by that. When you go into a school, well, let's just say your house flooded, and it flooded 3 feet up. Well, you may have to cut 5 feet of sheetrock out. You don't have to cut it all out. You have to cut maybe 4 or 5 feet out. But when you fix it back, you have to paint the whole wall, right? They won't pay for painting the top half because that was not destroyed in the flood. So they will pay for the bottom 3 or 4 feet, and it's to that detail. If you replace 3 feet, they'll pay for 3 feet of it, square footage. That's reimbursable. And so all of these things, which means you have to go to every room in every building, get a square footage. It's a time-consuming issue. But we're going to do that to make sure that East Baton Rouge Parish Schools get back everything we have that's coming to us. I didn't mention the foundation. The foundation, I didn't realize I was on that slide. But Keela has done such a good job, and she has been in charge of the donations. So I'm sure glad that that wasn't a part of the job description when we hired her, because she probably would not have taken the job, because literally she could get up here right now and tell you about the truckloads of stuff coming from all over the country. Y'all, literally from all over the country and all over the world, people have been generous and helped the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. We had one young lady from, was it Houston, Keela? From Houston. She's a 14-year-old girl from Houston who by herself put together a program and sent us, how many pallets?
9 pallets.
9 pallets of books that have been distributed in our schools. One 14-year-old girl. And that's a snapshot of what's happened from all over this country. And we appreciate that. And Keela, we really appreciate what you've done to make sure that is done correctly, because that is not easy work. So let's change a little bit. We talked about the flood and the challenges and all that, but look, we have so many great things going on. These are the areas we're pursuing, and I've already mentioned leadership. It's critical, just critical. A good friend of mine once said, every now and then as a leader, you need to turn around and look behind you and see if someone is following, because if not, you're just out for a walk. You may think you're a leader, but dude, you're just out for a walk. And so that's important, right? So there are leaders, and there are leaders who do the job so well that people will just go through walls for them, right? There's an old saying about leadership. It says great leaders, they build statues to. Greater leaders, they write stories and talk about forever. But the greatest leaders of all, the people say they did it. And that is true. The greatest leaders are the ones where the ones they're leading feel like they are empowered to do it. And that is what leadership is about. That's critical. We're also talking about instruction. We do academic audits in all of our schools regularly. And school culture is important. Now let me also mention that only in the middle one will you see a score from the state. The state scores, and you know right now the state is in the middle of working toward changing the way we do letter grades and accountability. But that is not the full story of a school. It's about the culture of a school. It's about how you feel when you walk in that school. It's about the leadership of the school. There's so many different things that make up a great school. And I just want you to know that. But the instructional piece the academics, is the only one that the state measures. And these are the things, I call them AAA plus C. This is teaching the whole child. We have to teach the whole child. I want our children to learn to give back. I want them to learn to be service leaders. Today is the day of giving in Baton Rouge. I want them to reach out and do something for someone else. And let me tell you, after this flood, it was, I hate to say it was a good thing, but it brings out the best in people sometimes. And our students and our teachers got out there and helped other people. And it gave them a snapshot and an experience of, the greatest things in life you can't really put your hands on, right? The greatest things in life you really can't put your hands on and put it in your pocket. It's not about money. It's about what we leave for others in this lifetime. And that's building character. And athletics are important. Y'all, we have a team, Scotlandville High School, that is playing for the state championship this Friday night in the Superdome. All right. I want to tell you that I went and bought 4 Scotlandville sweatshirts 2 weeks ago, and me and my family, Claire and her husband Stevens McVeigh, and myself and my wife went to the Scotlandville game at Scotlandville High School. They played St. Aug, and we were in line to get in, and this gentleman came up and he was so nice. He said, "You may be on the wrong side." I said, "Scotlandville, baby. We're not on the wrong side." He said, "Okay." That's a true story. So, and it was awesome. It was awesome. I tell you what, Levi Lewis, but let me tell you the best part of that story. They're 12-0 and they're playing for state championship. Whether they win it, I don't know. They're playing Evangel, and that's like a college team. All right? All right. Never give up now. Catholic High got beat by Brother Martin 26-0, and we beat Brother Martin last week. So we're pretty good. That Levi Lewis, the quarterback, has signed with ULL, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think ULL, he signed. He's not a big guy, but he can throw the ball and he can run. Let me tell you this. Here's the best part. He was named one of 5 Baton Rouge hometown heroes last weekend at the Centralplex. Okay? And the Louisiana High School Athletic Association hands out a sportsmanship trophy for the area. I think it's like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe even 9 parishes. Scotlandville High School football team won the sportsmanship trophy, and I think that deserves a hand right there. When I was at that game, I saw players picking up the ball and handing it to the referee. You don't see that often. That's what I saw. And I emailed that principal and all of those people up there saying how proud I was of them. And I'm going to be in the Superdome Friday night. I may even leave early. Where's Barb, board members? I may even leave early. All right, because I'm going to be in that Superdome Friday night, watch that game. Okay, we have had a great tradition in East Baton Rouge Parish. Look at what some of the things we've achieved. 9 U.S. Blue Ribbon schools, Green Ribbon schools, nationally renowned magnet. But I'll tell you, most recently, the French consulate to the United States, to New Orleans. His name is Gregor Tremont. He came up from New Orleans. New Orleans is the French consulate in New Orleans is the oldest consulate in the United States. He came up last week and bestowed upon FLAME, which is the Foreign Language Immersion, Academic Immersion Magnet, Elementary School, and Westdale Middle School, the label of Label Franc Education. Only 16 schools in the United States have that label, which means they're at a level of achievement in France that only 16 schools in the nation have achieved. And the DELF Award, which is a test which is given to students, Glen Oaks Park Elementary, Baton Rouge High had some kids who got the DELF Award, Westdale Flame, one more school I can't remember right now, and Glen Oaks Park Elementary School. He said it was the only elementary school that they've ever given the DELF award to. And we had 8 students out of 9 who are learning French earn the DELF award from Glen Oaks Park Elementary. That is incredible, isn't it? That's unbelievable. Y'all can see that I'm fired up, can't you? I love this job. You know, I love it. All right, let's see if I can talk about a few more things here and get y'all out of here on a good, all right, good time. District performance score, school performance score. Elementary is all on test scores. We went up in that area pretty significantly. Middle school is test and high school credits, because you have some students taking high school credits. High school is a little more complicated. The ACT counts for 25%. We went up significantly in ACT. We stayed the same in the EOC. We went up in graduation rate, and we went up in index. So there's really 6 indicators. I know it may look like 7, but there's 6 indicators. We went up in 5 of those 6 indicators academically in our schools, and I'm very proud of that. Proud of the leadership that we have in our system and our board and everybody else. So you can see that. So that's some things we're doing right there. 10 points plus growth. You can see some of the schools. I'm not going to read them off to you. These are schools that made significant growth. And I'm just going to stop right there and ask if anyone has questions. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
As you sit back this afternoon and listen to some of the things that Warren talks about that's going on with the system, just consider this. If you believe that it's important for us to have a strong public school system, and it's important for us to have that because the only way we're going to meet the workforce needs of our economy going forward is to have a strong public system. And if you believe that in a manner that makes you want to get involved, whether or not you have kids in the system today, I will tell you is irrelevant, because it's about maybe your kids' kids as well. So if you feel interested to get involved, then there's 3 ways to do it. And I'll give you my 3 ways and win with the card here. There are 3 things we need from you. The first thing we need from you is your money. Make no mistake about it. What the foundation does is we try to help plug the gap between what your tax dollars, and we all pay tax dollars, what the tax dollars can do for the system and what they don't have funding for. That's what the money is used for, because every dollar we get from the state, every dollar you contribute gets put to good use. Believe me, these folks are incredible at trying to stretch that dollar. But there's things that we need to do in our system, right? Educational programs. STEM is a great example of that. It's at the middle of what we're trying to do with the foundation. We need money to go do that. So the first thing you can do if you're interested and intrigued and inspired is we need some money. You can do that today through the Giving for Tuesday, all right? The second thing you can do if you don't have the ability today to give your money is very simple. Give us your time. There are things you can do today to volunteer in the system. We can help align with that through the foundation that can impact a kid. So give us your time. Sometimes time's more important than money, right? But give us your time. The last thing, if you aren't in the position to give us money today or give us your time today, is pretty simple. Listen to what Warren talks about. Pay attention to what's happening in the system and give me the strength of your message. If you can help us communicate to the community what's really going on. Look, there are things that happen every day in a school somewhere in the parish that I'm sure Warren and his staff will go, that's not good. It happens every day. But man, there are so many good things going on, so many good things happening, so many good programs. And what we're trying to do is expand these programs to every school in the system. So give me your message. Talk about it. Tell somebody about what you heard. Explain to them why that maybe inspires you, why that makes you interested. If we get more people talking about it, then I will get more time and I will get more money.
The Foundation for the East Baton Rouge Parish School System is a nonprofit organization that's set up to help support the initiatives of the school system, primarily focused around innovative ways to help our students learn. So what we do is pretty simple. We look for ways to help find funding to support these programs, identify programs that fit with the system's initiatives. On every
We want to continue to grow. I think this year in particular, with the flood, we've had a very interesting year. We had over 5,000 students displaced. We had over 800 of our employees displaced, and they still are displaced. So our transportation system had to change, our teachers had to move, kids had to move from school to school. It's been a huge challenge, but I think they've handled it very well. They're so positive, I can't believe it. But there gets a point, when you have your in-laws over for a long time, it's time to go home after the holidays eventually. Well, it's getting to that point where the schools need some fresh air. And so we're working very hard to open some of our schools back up, even partially in January and February.
The superintendent's been very excited about some of the steps they're doing. It's a long process. It takes some time. But we're very excited, particularly around what we're doing with STEM Up. That's a big project we're involved in. And the effort to help our students kind of cover that gap around skills and knowledge that helps them be better prepared for the workforce is a huge initiative. It's important not just to the system, it's important to the parish, because in the day we've got to have a qualified workforce in order to help move this economy along.
I think the leadership of our staff, has increased and gotten a lot better. Our principalships are better, I think, and right now I'm in the process of replacing 2 principals. So I think the leadership in our schools, I want people to know that the key is leadership. So we're working very hard to get the right people in the right schools. Past that, I want our principals to be the CEOs of their campuses. I want them to make decisions for their campuses which are good for children. Even though we have many thousands of employees, this is about our students. And I think every decision we make needs to be for what is best for students. And when we make that decision, we can't make a wrong decision.
It's very important. It's an unfortunate truth, but it is a fact. All things require money to move forward. But it's not just the money that we need. It's also time. It's also message. All those things come from individual involvement. Individuals in terms of people who just have a commitment and desire to help kids learn, but also businesses who see the value in helping to develop a workforce that's better suited for the needs of our economy.
If people have questions like more information about East Baton Rouge schools, what should they do?
EBRschools.org, 922-5400. Come by in person to visit. My door is always open. I look forward to visiting with the community out in the schools.